unshakable eternal truth. My unshakable eternal truth. And your unshakable eternal truth. As we heard in the daily word, which kind of gives it away, it's our wholeness. No matter what's going on around us, no matter how we feel, we are gifted our wholeness as children of God. Let's go to Genesis. Moses wrote about it in Genesis chapter 1. In verse 27. So God created man. I don't want you to leave the gender out of this idea of man. The Aramaic word is nausha, and it simply means all of humanity. That's the direct translation of that Aramaic word that's used here. So God created all of humanity in His image. In the image of God, He created all of humanity. Male and female, He created them. And in verse 31 we see, and God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good. And that means that you are very good. We are all very good. Not just good, very good. Goosebumps. Yeah. But stuff happens in this world, in this life. You see, there is no separation. Everything's a oneness, part of that song of life. The absolute realm, which is pure spirit. The relative world, where life happens all around us. That's just ways of thinking about this oneness, ways of picking it apart with our brain, okay? So don't get hung up on this separation. This separation, because it's all one. In this relative realm, stuff happens. I want to share one more verse with you. Actually, I've got a few to share today. I ran out of ribbons. I've only got 3 ribbons. This is from 2 Corinthians and chapter 4, verse 18. For things which are seen, that stuff that we see out there, are temporal. They're temporary. They're constantly changing. But the things which are not seen are eternal. Our wholeness. Spirit. Spirit's like the wind. In fact, that word that's translated of spirit is the same word as breath. And it's not the breath you feel when you breathe on your hand. It's the act of the breath that's flowing. Eternal. So your wholeness, it's eternal. I can remember a time, and maybe some of y'all had the COVID as well. I got the Delta strain, probably at work. Who knows for sure. But it hit me, and it hit me really hard. I had had my first vaccine, but I hadn't had my second yet. And I felt terrible. It was worse than any flu I'd ever had. As a child of 9 or 10, I had a typhoid shot, and I got that fever. Just a very touch of it. But nothing I'd experienced up till that moment of getting the COVID, the Delta strain, felt so bad. The fever. I can remember having vivid dreams where I saw these graphical reports like I use when I inspect a part at work that show how close you are to nominal, the nominal dimension by the different colors. And I was seeing the inflammation in my body in these different colors. And so there were concentrations here and there. That's how wild the fever had my dreams. I kept affirming my wholeness. I have this affirmation that I really like to use. I talk about putting an affirmation, getting it in your consciousness that it's like it's right there in your hip pocket, ready for you. I am a child of God, perfect, whole, and harmonious. That's my hip pocket affirmation. And I was saying that affirmation so many times through this process because I felt so bad. And I can remember one time waking up, saying that affirmation, and just laughing, literally bursting out laughing because of this polarity, this paradox of how terrible I felt. At this moment, I felt like an elephant had sat on my chest, or the entire football team had jumped on me at one time and wouldn't get up. I could barely breathe. But I was breathing. And I affirmed this wholeness, and I was breathing enough I could laugh. And I remember laughing and rolling over and going to sleep. I really believe that that was a turning point in the sickness, in the illness that I had going through me at that time. From there on, I began to get better and better. My full breath didn't return for months, but that was the turning point. And there was this burst out of laughter. How could it possibly be that I was a perfect and whole being when I obviously had all this inflammation in my body and I felt so terrible? But it was true. That dis-ease passed. This relative world is constantly changing. And this changed too. But what didn't change was my wholeness. So that affirmation of perfect, whole, it worked. Paul wrote in Romans, and I'll find that passage here in a minute, chapter 12, verse 2. Do not imitate the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And that's what I was doing by saying this affirmation that is in my hip pocket. I encourage you to find one. That is a way I paraphrased the affirmations that I read in Lessons in Truth. I just took what I had read and I made it mine. Because what it does is it renews my mind. Instead of dwelling on how bad I felt, on the fear that I literally had for my mortality, I could say that affirmation and feel better. It changed the patterns that were going on in my consciousness. Be transformed by the renewing of your minds. You see, because there's this song. The Byrds wrote it. But it's based off of what's in Ecclesiastes. And just a little trivia thing, Ecclesiastes, it just means the preacher. How about that? In Aramaic, that word that's translated into Latin as Ecclesiastes, it just means the preacher. I'm gonna sing a little smattering of the song. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to, I won't sing the whole song, but you get the gist. This turning, this constant turning, this constant changing. I want to read out of Ecclesiastes. See, this is why I need my fourth bark marker, because I had to read this part. Says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Everything we're seeing out there, it's just vanity. It's, what is this vanity? It's just us taking it on. It's nothing. It's changing our vanity. Our vanity when we're really young. And then as time turns, what happens to that vanity? It's just vanity. This relative world. It's constantly changing. But what stays the same, what is absolute in this world, is spirit. You, each one of us, created in the image and likeness of God. That line from the song, eternal life in me, it's in the second verse. I am the Christ design, glorious life divine. Each one of us. That's why I had to pick that song right there. You see, our unshakable truth, my unshakable truth, your unshakable truth is our wholeness. And even the COVID, it couldn't do it in. And I was ready. If it was my day and that elephant just wouldn't get off my chest, I was ready for that too. My unshakable, eternal truth.